Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. At Natal's Air Conditioning, our motto is service honoring the golden rule. We're dedicated to providing the best air conditioning solution for your home or business in the New Orleans metro area. More information is available at 504-821-0005. Natal's Air Conditioning, a proud sponsor of the St. Jude Dream Home. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we're going to tackle all the home teams, the New Orleans Saints, the New Orleans Pelicans, the LSU Tigers, and the Tulane Green Wave. We got a great panel for you. It ought to be a fun night tonight. Allee Walsh of SportsNola.com and former Saints quarterback John Fourcade of WHNO TV and a whole lot more. And guys, we always like to start the show with find out a little bit about what you guys are doing. And thanks for being with us tonight. Brian, we'll start with you.
It's always a pleasure to be on with my buddy John and you, and it's a great panel. Still with WHNO TV. We do SportsNola TV every Monday night at 6. I'm on with Ricky Jackson, Amy Jones, and Kenny Trahan. And then I'm doing a lot of freelance work with USA Today, Sports Weekly, SportsNola.com. And I'm also an assistant coach at Ben Franklin High School.
That's what I hear.
That's right. I try to stay out of the head coach's way in both sports, baseball and volleyball.
Well, congratulate on that. You guys just made the playoffs in
reached
volleyball?
the semifinals
right.
in Division II this year, and it's the farthest we've gotten in about 6-7 years. So the girls played real well.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
John, welcome back to the show, and always good to have you. Again, thanks for being with us. And boy, you're involved in a lot of stuff as well. Tell the folks a little bit about where they can find you.
Well, you mentioned I was WHNO, Channel 20. I have the John Fourcade Show with Mike Detillier.
Yes.
And also I do In the Red Zone on Sundays or Mondays, whatever the Saints play, after game show, talk-in show, In the Red Zone with Mitch Gibbs. Mm-hmm. And then the big one I do, and it's kind of a shocker, I do the LSU footballs for Coach's Cabana. Mm-hmm. And it's been a great couple of years with that show. To get into it, basically, it's just an internet website. You go on it and you get to watch the LSU game, but you also get to watch the show. And you can tweet us and talk back and forth. And my co-host was Eric Ritchie this past year, and I had a blast. And we got one more game left, and then we'll see what happens in the bowl game. But that's about it. And I'm not quite coaching volleyball or things of that nature here, but
you'd like to be, though. I know that.
Yeah, well, hey, look, Nickel State's got some openings. I know Tim's there available. Some assistant coaches.
Eric, here's the thing with John is if he went to coaching, he would suffer big time in his salary and money compensation.
That I would.
You would.
That I would. Look. I want to say before we get started, I want to appreciate you when I passed by under the old pass the other day and you had to sign. You wasn't really being rude when you came to my car. We'll work for food. I appreciate you. Not one of those type guys.
I miss him. I miss him like a sore thumb here.
Remember, these guys did a morning radio show with us over at 690 AM, and it was a absolute blast. And tonight ought to be a lot of fun. Of course, John is on 990 AM WGSO with the Red Zone. And before we get started, John, you got to be excited and proud of your Rebels.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I'm other than be excited about my Ole Miss Rebels, I'm excited about the Rumble Raiders. My nephew's here. And
he's a heck of a prospect, isn't he?
Yes, he is. And the reason I say that, the Rebels are after him. And I spoke to some coaches there. Yes, they got a good opportunity to get a big major bowl, maybe the Orange Bowl, if they can win this week against Arkansas, and then the Egg Bowl against Mississippi State. And if they can take care of business, end up 10-2, be the first 10-win season in many, many years. And I would love to see them in a major bowl game on New Year's Day.
Yeah. Well, why don't you give the plug for your nephew while you're here?
Well, Rumble Raiders.
He's a heck of a quarterback.
Rumble Raiders. They play Charlton's Catholic this Saturday night, and Chase Fourcade is his name, and an outstanding junior quarterback.
Is he better right now as a junior than where you were?
The thing I say about he's so much better at me, he sees the field and throws the football. That's what I run better back at that time when he was there. We didn't have the throwing ability that they have nowadays in high school. I'm bigger than he was, but I'll say this much. He's one tough kid. I've seen him run 7, 8, 10, 12 times a game, but he can throw the ball much better than I could ever have imagined back then as a junior.
Will you be involved in the recruiting process, or will you let Keith handle
That's key. I've put it this way. I've made calls to people, and people I've talked to, some coaches, and they're, I'm doing a lot of that stuff. But when it comes down to it, they'll sit down together. Keith knows what he's doing.
Yes, he's been through it. No doubt.
I got to be careful.
Folks, I've got stories about him and his recruiting.
I can't give him anything because it could be illegal recruiting, Right. I can't
Got to keep it on the down low.
Yeah, okay.
I can't give him that new car. I mean, sorry.
Again.
How about that dinette?
Yes.
866-3200 is the phone number if you'd like to get involved in tonight's program. And guys, Saints 4-6, 27-10 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. Now back-to-back losses at home, and I think the one thing that has the fan base really, really upset is the fact that they just didn't show up, how flat they were, and couldn't finish drives on the offensive side of the ball and couldn't get off the field on third down. They had breakdowns on defense, which we've seen throughout the season. And, this team now was looking pretty going into possibly winning the NFC South now. In a virtual tie with Atlanta, but as far as the schedule maker goes and the standings goes, they are in second place. I'll start with you, Brian.
Yeah.
First of all, how do you lay an egg like that in the Dome with so much on the line?
There's no excuse. I mean, and there's no explanation, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know if Sean Payton really has an explanation for what happened. He admitted as much, that this team did come out a little bit flat. But, look, they were 4-4. John knows this. 4-4, they've got 3 home games. Everything is right in front of them, as badly as they have played. And now they've lost 2 in a row. One game was certainly winnable, but they didn't show up against Cincinnati, and I wonder what's going to happen on Monday night. Wouldn't that be funny? All of a sudden, and this club is going to go on the road. Maybe they'll start winning on the road since they're having trouble winning at home, John.
Well, I look at it this way. As I saw them go to Carolina, and I said on my show, I said, I don't think the Saints will lose another road game.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on record saying this. I think they've turned the corner. People always say that they can't win on the road. Look, they won in Carolina. They got that under the belt. But when you lay an egg 2 weeks in a row at your own home, when everybody's harping about Drew Brees and Sean Payton hasn't lost a home game since Moses was parting the Red Sea.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking back at this going, wait a second, folks. What has just happened to this football club? Is it because of what's going on offensively, or is it because of what's going on defensively? Is it just because they don't have the right players?
Right.
And that's what we're trying to get to. What's their reason? How do you come out flattened? And after you played the week before in overtime, you would think you'd come out against the Bengals, who only only netted 166 yards total offense. They had that in the first quarter.
Right. Well, John, you played the game at that level. I mean, you can maybe live with a college kid and college teams being a little flat, because of their age and obviously the emotion of the game. But a professional player, a guy that, again, you have 16 games in which to get it done. You don't really see a lot of that. You've done it. I mean, talk about, I guess, some of the circumstance behind that.
Well, the point I'm trying to get to is it's got to be your players. Then you got to look at who they brought in, and let's look at what they've brought in. Brian, you can elaborate this. They brought in a bunch of players over the years, the last couple of seasons here. None of them barely panned out. And then they go out and draft these players, and I don't think but one guy's been showing up, and that's been Cooks. Rest of the draft picks, and a lot of guys haven't produced for them. You can sit there and say what you want about the defense. If you don't have the talent on the defensive side of the ball to do some things on the defensive side of the ball, then that's the issue there. Now, offensively, with all this talent they have offensively, you're only scoring 20 points, 10 points, 7. You're not getting enough points. What is wrong offensively with this team?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll speak from my prognostication, guys, is that I totally either overestimated or underestimated this roster. Now, they've had some significant injuries, okay?
Yes.
Yep.
And the back end of their secondary,
yes.
right? Okay, we'll all admit that. But you know what? Every team has injuries.
Yeah.
And you have to wonder, Stanley Jean-Baptiste, second-round draft pick, hasn't done a thing. Brandon Cooks, nice player. Not a vertical receiver, though, that they really desperately need. And every week that this team plays a team with a vertical receiver, an A.J. Green, for example, you go, whoa, they're missing somebody. Jimmy Graham's not the answer when it comes to that. Vinny Sinceri's a nice player.
Right.
Okay, but he's not a frontline player right now.
Special teams guys.
And so they did lose some guys, but you do have to begin wondering about the depth of their roster as they've tried to replace the injured
real
players.
Quick, bro.
Yeah.
Didn't they just sign a guy to a big contract that plays defensive end for them? I don't care if you have
agree.
one game and play great. You got to produce. When you sign a big contract, you got to play. My whole goal is this: is that I told people years for years. You play first, I give you money after. You don't get a contract and the money first because you.
So Jim Finch was, right?
It happens. You produce, I'll pay you.
Right.
Don't give me the money up front and not produce because they haven't gotten anything from the four guys that are down.
I tell you what, I do think there is something to this, and it's something that maybe we overlook sometimes, is when they lost the 5 experienced guys on defense. Right. Now, granted, a lot of them, like Malcolm Jenkins and Roman Harper and John Vilma, guys like that, Jabari Greer could still play, okay? The guys like that, what you're missing, not only are you missing talent on the field, maybe declining or descending athletes perhaps in some cases, not all of them. I'm thinking, who's the other? Will Smith.
You miss the
Another
locker
guy.
room.
Yeah, you miss those guys in the locker room and also on the field too at crunch time, okay? And they don't have anybody. Junior Gillette.
There's no leader
nice
on
young
defense.
player. Cam Jordan, nice young player. But they don't have any skins in the wall, John.
No, they
don't.
don't.
And that's what Fink's talked about all the time.
Right. Well, guys, again, looking at that, I mean, let's face it, Vilma, Greer, and Smith were done. Okay,
Correct.
They had nothing left in the tank. Okay, so even if you wanted to bring them back, even at the price they were coming in at, they were done. You could make a case for Jenkins and Harper, but let's face it, I haven't met a Saints fan yet that was willing to say keep Harper and Jenkins on this team.
No, I agree with that. I mean, it was time for a lot of these guys to go.
Right.
That's why you have scouting department. Who you brought in, it makes a difference. You brought in an injured Bird. He was already hurt before you got here, and he got hurt after you got here.
That's true.
You brought in a couple of linebackers that never panned out. It's all what you go out. You can let guys go, but there's a lot of guys out there you can go get. Why do some of these other guys go to other teams and perform? We just haven't got the guys to come here to perform.
Guys, what about the fact that maybe, and this is just something I've been throwing out on the radio show this week, that this team looked like, now that we're looking at this roster, sure, you could talk about the loss of all those guys that had Super Bowl, they were on the Super Bowl team, they had Super Bowl experience. But what about the fact that Sean Payton comes back last year? There's a tremendous amount of energy now on this team. The expectations are higher. Payton is back. The team fed off that off that energy. And maybe, just maybe, those guys that we're seeing now that are not playing to that potential, maybe they played a little bit above their head last year, and maybe now they're kind of back to earth. Any thoughts there?
Well, there's always that possibility. There's no doubt about it. And John and I have talked about this ad nauseum about you're paying, and I'm just going to use Junior Gillette as an example, all right? You're making him an extremely highly paid player based on 1 year. He's a nice player, okay? But my feeling is that you need to do more than what he showed to get that kind of contract. You know what? Junior's one of these guys. He's a high motor guy, but obviously he's not producing like the money that he's earning. And what happens on defense is, teams figure out how to deal with players. The offense, I think, if you, John, is Drew Brees is shouldering a lot of responsibility.
Yes.
He's a proven veteran. He's a Hall of Fame caliber player. But after a while, you know what? Teams figure out how to play this offense as well. And everything, it's kind of like, we're sitting here bemoaning the fact that this team is struggling at 4-6, and yet they're still in the hunt. I would hesitate to say that they're not going to win. I'd say they will win the division when it's all said and done. But it's a one and done. I mean, this club is not going to go deep in the playoffs. So, I mean, and that's where they have failed, okay, because the expectations are such. This is no longer just a playoff team. It's a team that many people picked, and I know that their expectations were such, This was a Super Bowl caliber team.
Before the season started, it's all you heard.
It's all you heard.
I heard was Saints are one of the top teams in the league. Probably one of your. I mean, I hear it every day on.
But John, when you look at the roster, why wouldn't you feel that way? I mean, if you're looking from
but I
the
think
year
when you look
before
at the
to now-
roster, when you look at the roster, they were looking at the offensive side of the roster, and then they thought a little bit. Okay,
But you had the number 4 defense in the NFL last year.
And you add Jarris Bird, okay?
And
Vaccaro's healthy.
Right, but let's be honest. Kenny Vaccaro is more of a Roman Harper linebacker / up type guy.
Yeah.
That's just
a rover.
Yeah,
He's kind of a rover linebacker.
And you lose your secondary, and you're getting killed in the secondary.
Right.
You don't have you got Lewis back there, but he can't do it all.
Champ Bailey was always
But
a
the
mistake.
guys
Right.
up front, that's what I'm trying to figure out. They played 6 games in a season, and every other week they get one sack. And it came at the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Right.
The game was out of reach either way. Where was all this early? And that's what they were basing everything off of what last year, the 4th-ranked defense and a great offense. Age. I talked to Brett Favre the other day on my show, and he was telling me, John, he goes, first thing that goes, and you know as well as I do, your age, you start losing things out there, things get a little quicker for you, you get a little slower, and that's what's happening to some of these guys. And
but Johnny, on defense,
this is a young team.
It's a young team. It's a young defense.
Well, I'm mostly talking to the offense, because they haven't played worth.
The offensive line for sure.
I'll say struggling. They're struggling on the offensive line.
Yes,
they're struggling a little bit in the receiving department.
No doubt. Agreed.
And granted, they've run the ball pretty decent this season, but overall they haven't protected him. He hasn't get sacked a lot, but he's been rushed and hit a lot. And Drew is not having a great year right now.
No.
But like you said, the defense is young. Maybe they just aren't picking it up. I don't know why. Maybe you can't keep saying and blaming Rob. Okay, you got to say, wait a second. They just know the players.
It's got to be the players. No, I agree. And look, you played it at that level in the NFL, and the question is, at this point, when you look at how the secondary is decimated, they're talking about maybe Corey White playing free safety. You got, Jamarcus Sanford, who came in from Minnesota just a week ago. You got Pierre Warren, who was here in the preseason, but has been on the Minnesota Vikings practice squad. Those may be your safeties. They're talking about maybe Marcus Ball maybe playing some free. He's a strong safety guy. So how much can you dumb down this defense and not have it affect you going forward?
Johnny?
Well, let me ask you this. Where are all the veteran defensive backs that are been in the league that are cut? You're going to get players off of guys' practice squads. Where's their skins on the wall? How do you go get these guys, expect them to come in? You mean to tell me there's not guys out there who played 3 years here, 4 years there?
Sanford's one of those guys.
Get some of those players, and you got to get whatever needs to be done defensively, but they're not getting help up front. I don't care on that 4th and 10 and against the 49ers. You can't scramble around and expect a kid to cover somebody all over the field.
Agreed.
It's just going to happen. So they want to jump all over White. He did a good job up until the guy scrambled.
Well, that was Vaccaro's fault anyway.
Vaccaro is not a defensive safety.
He's not a free safety.
He's at the line of scrimmage.
Well, look, the defense is built on this. If you don't put any pressure on the quarterback, by that I mean take him off of his spot.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that happens all the time. If you don't do that and you allow cornerbacks to have to cover an extra split second or a second or two, look, there are not many good defensive backs in this league that can do that. So it all begins with the pressure, and if you don't get that good pressure, consistent pressure, you're putting a lot of pressure on that back end. And this isn't the kind of secondary that can handle it.
Well, especially now, okay? When you look at, like we just talked about, a guy that wasn't even on the roster, 2 guys weren't even on the roster a couple weeks ago in Sanford and Warren. Now you're looking at Robinson, Dixon, White, maybe Fredrickson, who came off your practice squad, being in your secondary. Guys, Stanley Jean-Baptiste can't see the field.
Yeah, I know.
At this point, you know what? They're going to be hard-pressed. If I'm the Baltimore Ravens, I'm throwing the football.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And this weekend, you'll see them throwing the football. If they figure that everybody else could throw on them, why not us? And it's not just dropping back, throwing the quick passing game. They figure, you know what? All I got to do is give my quarterback protection.
They couldn't stop 3rd-and-18 last week.
Well, look, now Dalton went from a 2-point rating to a 144. But the thing that Andy Dalton does that Flacco doesn't, he gets rid of the ball. Okay, he's going to get rid of the ball. Flacco, John, he's like Hebert, okay? Like you. These guys will hold on to it. If they can't get to him, there's something wrong.
Yes.
556-9696. Let's head to the phone line. Let's go to New Orleans East and Nathan. Nathan, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports.
Yeah, how you just doing this evening? I was watching you on the TV. I used to call you a while back before Katrina. And I just wanted to say I never understood this team letting 55 come in here and start. I mean, to me, it looks like every game he started and finished, we've lost. The 2 games he didn't start or didn't finish, we won. I just think that when you try to run this screen game, this offensive line is too old to run down the field at that big of a guy to run down the field and then get back and pass block. You need some younger guys for that. And you're right. When you're watching the defense, when you're sitting up there in the terror section, you're watching these guys 8-9 yards off the wide receiver. You need 3 yards for a first down. I mean, that's coaching. And you can't keep blaming Rob when you still got the same coaches that come in and that was here with Magnato and all the rest of them. You keep giving a head coach, a group of guys, and take these guys and coach my defense. And every time it doesn't pan out, you blame the head coach.
Nathan, thanks for the phone call. The offensive line, the interior of the offensive line is aging. Goodwin, Evans, Grubbs, and especially those guards, they're highly paid, and that will rise next year as well.
Zach Streif has a few years on him too, and Zach is playing with some injuries as well. I agree with John's comment earlier. I mean, the offensive line has not played as well as they have in the past, and yet the running game has been consistently good.
Better
for the
at the
most
running,
part.
honestly, better at the running game than the passing game.
Just go back to the Bengals game just for a second. I don't have a fault with their running game, with their game plan to a point. I mean, here they are. They're playing the 31st rushing defense, and yet they struggled. Okay, they struggled big time. And I will say this. Peyton stayed with that running game, John, a lot longer than he has in the past. I'm going, you know what, Sean, you ought to pull back on that and start throwing the ball a little bit more because the running game's just beating its head.
But you also got to look at something. The Bengals last couple of seasons have had a pretty doggone good defense. They've had some guys hurt. So even though they were ranked 31st, these guys are the same players you had last year. Maybe they stepped up their game the other night and played. You just don't turn bad all of a sudden from like a fourth rank the Saints were, and they had the same guys come back. So you got a good team in Cincinnati, and they've been in the playoffs.
Right.
So there's a reason why they're in the playoffs. It ain't just offense. It ain't Andy Dalton, leading there. It's a good defense they have. So some of these guys came back, and I saw a difference in Cincinnati's defense than I saw a week ago against
Cleveland.
Definitely do. 866-3200 is the phone number. If you'd like to get involved, let's go to John in New Orleans. John, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, John.
How you doing? How y'all doing?
Great.
Hey, John.
I got a little comment. I wanted to see I'll see if I can listen to your answer. I was calling to see do y'all think Sean Payton's arrogance caused him a lot of football games for his women?
John, thanks for the phone call. The arrogance of Sean Payton. Good thing, bad thing, helped him in the past, hurting him now?
Training camp, West Virginia.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. I remember talking to Jim Moore about this, is that, at some point you're going to be, you can be up in the, climbing up in success, all right? And you can almost, if you want to, you can almost do anything you want to as you go up the ladder. But when you come down, it's a hard fall down, and people don't forget.
And you pass it to everybody else.
I'm not alluding to anything, okay? But I remember Jim Moore wishes that he had been a different person as he went up the ladder. Than because he took a hard fall coming down. And you know what, I always say this, what goes around comes around. That's
you also remember now, the social media now is totally different than it was in the past, and everybody's scrutinizing everything that every coach. You look on the sideline, they're trying to make what's the difference between him with the glasses on and glasses off. That has nothing to do with him calling the plays, and they want to make something of it. They want to make something of this, something of that. Sean Payton is Sean Payton. He's been here. You know when you got him after a period of time what kind of guy he's going to get. They're still winning football games. He's still the same coach. You got to have a little spunk in you if you want to be a coach in this league. There ain't no doubt about it.
But it almost so seems as though he has lost that edge at times. He's not the same vocal, emotional guy on the sideline that he's been in the past. And I think I think the fan base sees it, and it may be a reflection of what we're seeing right now with the team. Guys, can you comment on that?
He might be a little frustrated himself, like we all are right now. People in the city looking at the 4-6.
Yeah, but I think he's trying to call somebody out.
He has. And maybe, when I look at when I'm frustrated, every time it comes to the end of the football game, you see the same people talking for the team. Let somebody else get their opinion.
Yeah, but that's the way Sean runs his team. I mean, he is a spokesman, and look, I've got as a media, and I'm not out there. Okay, I want to make sure that the people understand. I'm not out there on a regular basis. The only time I see this team is on game night anymore, game day. So I'm not privy, and I'm making observations from afar. So I do not know.
But
I've been around long enough, and I understand that this is the way Sean runs his team, John. And you know what? You don't suddenly become a bad coach in 10 games, okay? Right. They're having problems right now, and you do wonder if the message is getting through. All right.
It goes to your players, Brian.
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
He's like you, me, and Eric right now. What's wrong with this football club? They don't tell me behind closed doors. Sean Payton's not sitting. What is wrong with my team? We get the same guys basically we had on offense, and we only scoring a few points. What's going on there? Defensively, Rob was here last year, 4th-ranked defense. Maybe he's behind closed door. These guys say, it ain't. Maybe it's the players. Maybe it is these 4, 5, 6 guys they're bringing in now. Maybe there might be a difference. We don't know that until we find out at the end of the year. But right now, he's like us. He's trying to figure out how to get this team in the playoffs.
Well, he's always been successful at pushing the right buttons.
Exactly.
He really has. So we keep expecting this. That's why the Bengals game was just completely out of character for this team.
But it has been out of character all year long, guys. The up and down, the lack of discipline, the attention to detail. These are things that you just didn't see out of a Sean Payton coach team.
I agree, and even the wins against Tampa Bay and Minnesota earlier, they were
the losses early. They can't close games.
Yeah, they can't close games.
I mean, you tell me you got Drew Brees and you got the ball in your hand and you can't close a game.
This offense is not feared ananymore.
Not anymore.
I mean, at one time they
can take Jimmy Graham away easily now.
Look, now it's not feared, and that's a huge problem for this team at this point. Back to the phone lines we go. 866-3200 to Uptown and Tenny. Tenny, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports.
Yeah, I'm beginning. Peyton's getting $8 million a year. I don't think he's coaching $8 million value for what he's getting. And number one, the offense, the special teams is horrible. I mean, we kick the ball 10 yards deep into the end zone, and they're coming out. They're not taking a knee. We punted in the first 5 games. In the first 5 games, we had 13 yards returned. How could you have gotten rid of Sproles, who's leading the league now, without having a plan B? Well, I mean, when he let Sproles go, I thought sure he had somebody in mind or had a clue on who was going to replace him, but it doesn't look like he has.
Right. Tenny, thanks for the phone call.
He had a plan B. He did have a plan. Yeah. Brandon Cooks was the guy that he had in mind. But look, I tell you what, They miss Sproles, all right, or they miss a player like him.
Cooks is not that Sproles
He's not the same guy.
He's not the same guy.
And look, people dog Pierre Thomas, all right? I've always loved Pierre Thomas. No one runs the screen better than Pierre Thomas. Pierre Thomas is a 125% player, all right? They miss him desperately. They miss that kind of back and he's been injured. Hopefully they'll get him back for Monday night.
Back Monday night.
John, I know this. I know you would have liked to have had a player like Pierre Thomas.
Well, we had some good running backs.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, as a quarterback,
but a guy that that could pick up your blocks for you if he's in there. The guy when it's a screenplay, no matter what, all you got to do is give him the football on the screenplay. But going back to what the young man said as far as special teams, man, Cooks only averaged 3 yards on punt return.
Very disappointing.
And then on the kickoff returns, you got to take chances.
Right.
You know what? If you get to the 10-yard line, at least you gave the opportunity to find out.
You brought it up on this show a few months ago about Joe Morgan.
Yeah.
Okay, about the possibility of using him.
Yeah.
Now, again, he's back on the roster.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
They just lack that. They do. They lack that return speed.
That game breaker.
They do. And look, I assume Tenny was talking about Adam Jones. We knew him as Pac-Man.
Pac-Man, right.
Okay, Adam Jones took the ball on the fringe of the back end line, and he would return it 33, 34 yards.
He doesn't.
You got the guy from Dallas
and
Cowboys.
People feared him. Okay, people
the
feared
Cowboys, a special team punt guy, never fair catch to catch.
Right.
He never had a fair catch since he's been in the league.
Right.
I mean, hey man, my hat goes on. Now if he gets blown up, whatever, but at least he's making the effort. I understand you got Cooks back there who's your weapons or offense. If that's the case, then you pull him out, get Joe Morgan or somebody else. But you're going to have Ledetch being your kickoff return.
Johnny,
right
I can't remember the honest. Of course, it's what happens when you get up in age. I can't remember the last time a return guy made an impactful play on special teams for the Saints.
Well,
I know it's happened,
back in the day.
but I mean it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Okay, it's been a long
I
time.
think Roosevelt was still president when you were hanging out with him. I know y'all watching football back in
Your
those
buddy
days.
Tyrone Hughes wasn't bad at.
No, Tyrone.
No, there were a bunch of good guys.
The slim
Heck, Reggie
Tyrone
Bush.
did.
Reggie Bush made some good returns when he was here, but it's been a while.
Tyrone, though.
To Kevin in New Orleans, Kevin called us at 866-3200.
Michael Lewis,
There
right?
you go.
Yeah.
It's another one. Hey, Kevin, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm all right, man. I just laughed about the special teams return or whoever made the difference, but you might have to go back to Tyrone Hughes. But actually, man, I think more so with the defense, I think we struggle more because Jabari Grill's no longer there. Vilma, Will Smith, Malcolm Jenkins, and Roman Harper. I wasn't a big fan of those guys in the secondary, but those guys were key pieces and had championship pedigree. And by them no longer being available, there's no one on the sidelines to really corral everyone. And I honestly feel that because Malcolm Jenkins is no longer there, I honestly want to see him there because his playmaking ability and his speed, and it's made up for a lot of things. I guess he just didn't know as a safety. And now the season, man, has Kenny Vaccaro playing completely out of position and trying to do what he did last year, and it's just not working.
No, it's not. Thanks for the phone call, Kevin. Guys, any comment before we go to break?
Yeah, we all got to look at it this way. The guys were getting up in age. Vilma was he was hurt.
He was done.
Will Smith was the same kind. Roman Harper, Kenny Vaccaro is much better
same
at the
player,
position.
younger.
Right. All right. Now, as far as Jenkins, you might have got away with him back there if you let him freelance back there like a guy I don't like to bring his
But they
name
spent
up.
$9 million on Bird.
But yeah, and that's the scenario. I mean, some of these guys at the point they had to go. Now you could have kept Sproles if it was a dollar thing. Then I understand that. Same thing with Jenkins. But they're playing well right now at the Eagles. That's the only two I hear about there. But players come and go all the time. You just got to make sure you get the right guy to come in. You don't get an injured player to come in, give him all the money you gave him, and now he's done.
Well, I'll tell you what. We haven't really touched on it, but the salary cap and how they had to deal with it this year, I think we're beginning to see.
Wait till next year.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. The same things can happen again next year. And, they've tried to address some of these things with Junior. They're going to have to deal with Cam Jordan. They're going to have to pay out some big contracts still. Jimmy Graham. Those contracts, I think this team is beginning to feel that right now.
Well, especially because you've had to pay players.
And it hurts the
Super Bowl
depth.
team.
It hurts the depth of your team.
It definitely does.
Because when you've got, and look, all teams have to deal with it now, and Mickey Loomis has done a really good job. Let me make sure that I state that. He's done a good job controlling this cap. But what happens is when you start paying out the kind of money that they've paid out this past off season, and then Drew being the quarterback that he commands that kind of salary, John, it does take its toll on the depth of your roster.
It definitely does.
And if you can't keep people healthy, this is what happens.
You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports each and every Thursday night right here on WLAE at 6 p.m. with our live broadcast. We have a rebroadcast each and every Friday night right here on WLAE at 10 p.m. and also on Pelican Sports Television in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette at 9 p.m. on Friday night. John Fourcade, former Saints quarterback, now with WHNO TV, Coaches Cabana, and more. And also Brian Allee Walsh of SportsNola.com are our guest tonight. You're invited to join the conversation. Also, we'll get to LSU, Tulane, and the Pelicans coming up. Stay there. We'll be right back.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by.
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. At Natal's Air Conditioning, our motto is service honoring the golden rule. We're dedicated to providing the best air conditioning solution for your home or business in the New Orleans metro area. More information is available at 504-821-0005. Natal's Air Conditioning, a proud sponsor of the St. Jude Dream Home. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shocking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile. You're watching WLAE, New Orleans Public Television. Find us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Tonight's panel, Brian Allee Walsh of SportsNola.com and John Fourcade of Coach's Cabana and WHNO TV. 866-3200 is the phone number. Guys, it's going to be a tough game on Monday against the Baltimore Ravens. They're not a bad team at all. That AFC North is obviously playing very, very good football. Saints got to be able to prove that they can defend their home turf once again.
I agree, and Baltimore's 3-0 against the NFC South. Of course, who isn't against the NFC South? but no, it's going to be, the thing that you keep thinking, or at least, is that the Saints are a good home team. The Saints do well in primetime games, okay? Drew Brees is a spotlight player. I mean, you just got to feel that the light will turn on. But we're now in Game 11, and they need to find their groove, so to speak, and it'd be a great time to do it right now.
Brian, I hate to say it and put it out there in the nation, saying that these games now are crucial, critical. I don't think you can slip up anymore. You might be able to get away with one more loss and say, okay, but they got a tough team coming in there who's fighting for we look at their division.
Right.
They can't lose either with Baltimore. This game played on Sunday, I might have been like, maybe Baltimore's got a shot. But you were right. Prime time, Monday night, the Saints do show up on prime time.
Justin Smith said something. I was in the Niners locker room a couple weeks ago, and Justin Smith, and at that time they were 4-4, and it was a different 4-4. The Saints were 4-4 after winning 2 in a row. San Francisco had dropped 2 in a row. And Justin Smith said, we needed this game worse than the Saints did. John, I really think there's something to this, all right? Correct me, because you have played the game. When the Saints look at the NFC South standings, and, they've played poorly. They've all played poorly, okay? And yet they're right there. And I'm just wondering sometimes, these guys are professional athletes, and sometimes you get dull, your senses get dull. How much urgency is there, John, to win? They know if they lose, I bet Atlanta loses to Cleveland, and Carolina's off, and Tampa Bay's got to go play Chicago. Look, the NFC could be 0-3, and nothing's changed with 5 games left.
I mean, you look at it right now, they're 6-20-1 in
it's
the South.
just incredible.
6-20-1. And you look at these guys from a standpoint of the Saints players right now, and they're all in there going, we could probably lose a few games and still, I hate to say it, they can go 6-10, maybe win the division. 7-9.
Yeah.
I mean, but they probably say, well, if we win all 3 games against Atlanta, Carolina, and Tampa Bay, that puts it at 7-win mark. And if we luck out and win one road game against maybe, Pittsburgh or Chicago, now we're at 8-8. We're definitely in there. So they look at it now like it's crucial. Right now they got to sit there and say, we got to win every game.
It's a 6-game season.
It is. It's definitely a 6-game season. And, 8 wins is going to win this division. It should, right? So you figure, but again, guys, I harp on this because I think it's really true. You want to be playing your best football as you go into the playoffs. Right. You don't want to be easing in, backing in, because you know what?
But you want to get in.
You do want to get in. Anything can happen, John.
My last year, we got in on the last game of the season when
I remember
Dallas went to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And we lucked out. We sitting in there, well, we got in the playoffs. Granted, we got in it.
Right.
We didn't do anything when we got in there, but we got in there. Right. We should have done something. We went to Chicago.
Now, the good thing about this, the whoever wins the South is going to host the first round.
That's right.
So you got the home field advantage, so to speak, and the Saints generally play well at home.
It's a different athlete today, though.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, between Twitter, we talked about it earlier, Facebook, the social media. Maybe back in the day, guys who maybe looked at the standings, were seeing what everybody else was doing. Now guys are watching and listening to what the media is saying, to what other players are saying about them. I mean, it's a total different athlete than what we're used to seeing.
I heard something real quickly. I know it's changing. the Baltimore game, snow, right? You know, all the players were saying, "Oh, we're gonna be fine." You know why? Because they sending us everything, they PowerPoint and everything. We got our iPads, our laptop. We don't need to practice. We already got everything here. Just imagine if it was us 20 years ago in a snowstorm and not practicing 3 or 4 days a week.
Right.
Can't communicate, can't travel. You're right. The media, social media, everything's out there.
No, it is a different game. 866-3200. Let's shift gears. LSU now 7-4. Just a horrible loss to Arkansas. A lot of people talking about maybe that Alabama hangover. But guys, I'm going to tell you the most glaring deficiency on this team, it's been all season long, is the quarterback. And I want to start with you, John, because you played in the SEC at a very high level. I mean, it just doesn't look like Anthony Jennings is an SEC caliber quarterback right now. And, we're hearing that rumbles that, the reason why Brandon Harris is not getting on the field is, he just doesn't know the playbook.
All right, this is what I'm hearing, too. Doing the Coach's Cabana show, I got to do my little homework and follow up and hear and talk and do some things. And I will say this much. When you play in the SEC, how does the SEC not have 12 elite quarterbacks? When you talk about all the other schools in the West and the Big Ten and the Big 12, and they got SEC, your caliber of players playing for championship. How does LSU go about the last 10 years not have a guy that's quarterback for them for 3 seasons in a row as your starting quarterback, let's say? And you're right. Jennings is not an SEC quarterback. I hate to go on record as saying I know I do LSU's football games. And another thing is Harris, the knock on him is he doesn't quite get anything. And coming from this spread from whatever division they came in high school, the competition level is different. Now you're playing with the big boys. This is not Sun Belt Conference. This is SEC. When you throw yourself in there, you got to know what you got to know. You got to know what you're doing. And they don't believe in him right now.
Right.
Well, when you look at the two quarterbacks, neither one has really improved this year. Now, do you throw that blame at Cam Cameron? Do you throw it at they're not building a game plan around these guys?
If you do, though, Brian, do you throw it? Last year, you got to say Mettenberger got better.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I just think that, you've got they've had 3, 4 quality running backs, okay? Yes. And I don't think anybody's got any problem with them being able to run the football effectively, but you need in this day and age in college football, you got to have a guy that can throw the football.
Tell me which style of offense is LSU running?
Yeah,
is it
I know.
A pro style? You got a coach that coaches a team who's Big Ten. You got a coach who calls the plays who's been in the NFL pro style. And you got 2 spread guys who don't throw the football from the pocket, who don't understand how to drop back and throw. Right. It's a great gamble. So either you go get yourself pro style quarterbacks or you run the spread type offense.
Last week, obviously, the offensive line injuries hurt this team. I mean, you can't lose Alexander, you can't lose Porter against Arkansas. This is Arkansas's game, the boot. They were ready to play. The Tigers were already one-dimensional in terms of being able to just run the football. Now you take those offensive linemen away. Now they can't run the football. And, of course, then the deficiency at quarterback was even more glaring.
Well, Arkansas came out through the ball.
Yeah.
They came out and said, you know what? They stopped it for 95 yards. Right. LSU got a pretty good defense. But they said, we're going to play
well
action.
Enough to win.
That's all they had to do.
Yeah.
They played well enough to win the game.
Right.
And you're right. The offense for LSU is atrocious out there. But Arkansas said, you know what? We're going to change a few things up. And all they want to do is score 1 more point than LSU.
Well, it was a perfect storm, actually, okay? You got LSU, which typically they ought to look at next year's schedule or the schedule in the future and maybe schedule a cream puff after Alabama.
Or an off week.
Or an off week or something, okay?
Yeah.
There's no doubt. And look, the way that LSU played, it's more understandable to me because they are young men, all right? They're teenagers in many cases, as opposed to the flatness that the Saints displayed, okay? And very similar, okay? There were...
those are college kids.
Exactly. And there is a difference. But
some are getting paid a little bit less than the pro guys.
And he speaks the truth. He ought to know, exactly. But it really is true. It really is true.
Let's head to the phone lines. Guys, we're going to get to each and every one of your phone calls. Be patient. Let's go to Harold in New Orleans. Harold, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. How you doing tonight, Harold?
All right. Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Hey, Harold, how are you doing?
Hey. I just want to make a statement right quick. I think that the Saints' problems stem from the scouting department. Ryan Pace and the draft last year, we only really got 2 good players, Sinceri and Cooks. The other guys, I ain't never heard of none of them. And I watch college football all day long. And last year's draft, a lot of these guys they're picking, I don't know where they come from or what they're doing with them, but I don't know. Nobody else. The other teams got players they picked in the 4th round, and they're producing. What's up with us? You know?
Right.
And that's all I wanted to say, guys.
Thanks so
Y'all
much
have
for
a
the
good
phone
night.
call. They did thought they had a better team. They went after, especially in the mid rounds, guys that could play special teams. The guys that they thought were gonna step up and be part of this roster and be part of the main 53. Just really haven't panned out, mainly Stanley Jean-Baptiste. When you look at the injuries you got in that secondary right now, your second-round pick's got to be able to play.
Absolutely, and look, that was a position of need. They went and got Champ Bailey, but they weren't expecting Champ Bailey to be an every-down type of player, but they were hoping that he would provide some kind of leadership and example. But in Stanley's case, here's a project. He was a raw guy coming in,
Yes.
okay? He wasn't a polished cornerback coming out of college. So he was a project anyway. And what's happened is that all these injuries have affected their secondary more than any other position.
And the lack of pass rushes you mentioned
Right,
earlier.
exactly. And so that has affected it.
They need to go out, and they should have done this for last. They need to get them, if they're going to run a 3-4 defense, get a rush linebacker / defensive end, a bad boy, and a
John, they
cornerback.
went out and
That's
paid
what they
money to
thought
Junior
Junior Gillette
Gillette.
was.
They've paid him
Whatever.
money. Well,
But
no,
look,
not whatever.
all right.
They've paid him substantial money
but-
to do just that very thing.
But you got guys in college football, I think they can step up and do a better job.
Not
Now, when it comes
disagreeing.
to the secondary, I would have waited on Cooks instead of trading for Cooks and moving up. You could have got a receiver if that's what you want Cooks for, because Cooks hasn't really been the burner, go deep guy.
It's panned
I
out,
would have
John.
gone and got a defensive back guy and found me a receiver in the second round, because you know what? They got him out there in the second round.
Well, hindsight 2020,
Yep.
it has definitely panned out. You look at now some of the receivers who have stepped up, that were 2nd, 3rd round picks that are playing good football
Mm-hmm.
right now. Now looking at this, maybe that cornerback was the position you should have went through in the 1st round. Cooks is just not the player everybody thought he was going to be, and that's why they let Sproles go. They thought he was going to be that dynamic player that was going to dictate to that safety everywhere he went. No longer could you double team Jimmy Graham, and then on special teams you were going to be able to obviously be able to utilize him to be a game breaker, and he hasn't been that guy. He's been a good receiver, but not that guy.
I wonder sometimes that as fans and media that we picture a guy filling this need. I wonder if they indeed thought of him as a vertical receiver, or they thought of him more as a Darren Sproles type of guy. I think
That's
it's more
two-
that.
that's two different things.
It's two different
One's
things.
going
See,
down deep,
look,
yeah.
look at their deep people. Okay, Marcus Colson. I love Marcus. Marcus is
12 and under
yeah.
catcher.
All right, Marcus, Nick Toon, Kenny Stills, Joe Morgan. Who am I missing?
Jimmy Graham.
Jimmy Graham, and Robert Meacham. I'm just
Rob
looking at the
Meacham.
vertical
Right.
guys, okay? These guys that are supposed to stretch the field. Kenny Stills is a nice receiver, but he's not A.J. Green. He's not a guy that's going to stretch and put a fear on a defensive coordinator or a DB all the time. Jimmy Graham is that kind of guy, but John hit it earlier. You can take Jimmy out of a game, okay? You can take Jimmy out of a game, plus he's not totally healthy. So
My whole take is this, guys. Go get your 6'3", 6'4" receiver who can run. That's your deep threat.
Well, look, they got a
try to do it, Robert
6'2", 6'3" cornerback, which is the trendy thing to do. Stanley's just not ready to play football, or he would be playing now.
Well, agreed, but
My
he was supposed to be a bump and run guy coming out of Nebraska.
Well,
he's not that guy right now. To James in Franklinton. James, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hey guys, and I'm gonna. My question has to do with the quarterback position at LSU, which is, with the exception of Zach Mettenberger, they haven't been able to get one. My question is, do you think that Les Miles and his coaches, well, I won't put it on all the other coaches, I'll just put it on Les Miles, have a proclivity to mess up the quarterbacks that they recruit? And will Les Miles ever win another SEC title? I'm going to hang up and listen to you guys.
Thanks.
And I know John Fourcade will love that question.
Appreciate it.
All
John?
right.
Here's my take on that far as quarterbacks in there. If you're a quarterback right now, a highly ranked quarterback, would you want to go to LSU knowing that you're going to throw 20 passes a game?
Yeah.
Probably not. If you're a talented wide receiver nowadays, I'm thinking I might want to go somewhere where I'm going to get 14 balls a game thrown my way. That's the problem you're getting with LSU. Les Miles has always been a Big Ten. We want to win on defense and not turn it over offensively, and that's his style of quarterback. And that's why you'll never get a pro style or a big-name quarterback to come to LSU until you say, we'll throw 27 to 35 times a game, along with running 25 to 30 times a game. That's what he needs there. As far as them winning another championship right now, not with some of these quarterbacks.
Well, Les Miles' penchant for getting this athletically gifted quarterback, okay? Not necessarily a pro quarterback, right? Which is what Cam, that's his background, right? You know, look, they won with Matt Flynn.
Yeah.
Okay, you can win with a good college quarterback.
Yeah, but you got to at least be a threat.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, these quarterbacks can't even complete 50% of their passes.
They don't.
And they haven't.
They haven't.
So that's
it.
a big problem.
You got one game left for the season, and both your quarterbacks are under 50% throwing the football.
I mean, there's something
they
wrong
don't
there,
even
right?
have a quarterback in the SEC that's thrown for 1,000 yards yet at LSU.
Yeah.
And look, and this is arguably a top 15 program, right? Okay.
And you can't say it's because of the skill positions. They've got the
they
receivers.
got
that's
the
right,
receivers,
exactly.
They got the running backs.
Oh, yes.
They've got it all.
And even the offensive line is playing much better down the stretch here. It's the one big position where they failed is that quarterback.
I know, and it has been a trend too.
yeah,
okay,
no doubt.
under Les's tenure.
To Uptown and Jerry. Jerry, welcome. You're in Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Jerry.
Yeah, I want to keep the conversation going about LSU. I feel as if we're giving LSU too hard of a time because the team is literally freshmen. I mean, you have Jordan Jefferson Jr. who's starting right now, and you have Brandon Harris, and you know all of the offensive powerhouse. They're literally all freshmen. Are we giving them too hard of a time right now? And in 3 years, just like how Mississippi State is going, will they be number one in 3 years? You know, because I mean. Look, I'm not a football player, you know, and I don't do that, but I'm pretty sure coming straight from high school going into college is a lot different. I think we're giving them we're putting them too high up there at such a young age.
Thanks for the phone call, guys.
I'm gonna jump on that real quick.
Do, 'cause
it's like a rookie in the NFL. You're no longer a rookie after 4 games. You're now a player. You're playing college football. Your freshman stuff. They play 17 freshmen. You don't think other teams playing 10, 8, 9 freshmen or whatever?
That's the way it is
So I don't want to
today.
use the excuse that you play young kids. It's great early in the year, but you play cupcake teams. That stuff's over and done with. When you got these young kids, then whose fault is it that you're playing a freshman? You know, you got a sophomore, junior that you're not playing because you have to play a freshman. Obviously, the sophomore, junior's not playing for a reason. Well, with that being said, hey, get yourself some veteran players at the skill spot. The receiving core, I don't mind having freshmen young. Your O-line is all seniors and big boy. Quarterback, you got problems there. Why? Where's your veteran quarterback that you should have had the last couple of years?
3 observations on that. You know, this is not Tulane, Jerry. You know, you're supposed to be able to win with whoever you. This is LSU, okay? This is a top 15, top 12, top 10 program, depending on how you want to argue it. Okay, so their recruiting base needs to be such. This is 10 years into this guy's regime here. We're not talking about a first or second year coach here. He needs to at least. You could question his recruiting, okay? I think you can definitely do that. And you also can question these 5-star recruits that supposedly that they're getting, and that everybody's getting, okay?Maybe they're overrated. But Leonard Fournette is the real deal.
Carried
all right?
5 times.
Yeah, and right. And if you go against in the Alabama overtime, did Leonard Fournette touch the ball in overtime? Okay, so all these things mount. But look, don't cut LSU any slack here, in my opinion. It's a top program. They should be in top every year.
Well, and guys, if you're LSU, you realize you're not going to keep a guy past his junior year. You know
that has hurt. We haven't addressed that, and you're absolutely right.
It has hurt him, but you know this.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know you got to prepare yourself.
Don't you know that when the guys come
it.
in?
Yep,
but
you do.
still, you can get 3 years out of them.
Right?
Yeah. You don't expect maybe the first year, but when he's a sophomore and a junior, and he can't perform, there's issues.
Yes.
To Covington and Mike. Mike, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports.
I wanted to talk about Les Miles too, but some of the questions have been covered before. I'm going to ask this one. But Les Miles reminds me of Carl Smith's offense when he was with the Saints. And talking about Ken Cameron, he's been fired from 4 teams. I mean, he last coached the offensive coordinator at Baltimore. And when they got rid of him, they went on and won the Super Bowl. And last year I'd call when John was on the show and y'all were talking about LSU winning the national championship. I said, man, LSU can't even win the SEC West. And y'all laughed. And you see where they're at. It's, under Miles, it just seems like they'll never get there because he believes in the run and not developing a quarterback. And then he blames it on the offensive coordinators. And it's just, when will it ever stop? And why pay this guy $4 million? I'll hang up now.
Mike, thanks. We'll go to a guy that played in the SEC.
Hey, Mike, I agree with everything you're saying there. The fact that, I brought this up on a Coach's Cabana show the other day. I had to bring it up. Indiana fired Cam Cameron. Miami Dolphins in 1 year fired him. Baltimore Ravens in the middle of the season, the Super Bowl run, fired him. I met him. I spoke to him a few times, but I don't know what he's doing back there. Maybe it's because Les Miles said, hey, this is what we're going to do, and you got to do by this. You want to hold on to your job. That could be that. But this is not Big Ten football. Every time we talk about LSU-style football, it reminds you playing in the Big Ten.
Well, it does.
3 yards in a cloud of dust. And then all of a sudden you're going to ask your quarterbacks to try to come out and win the ball game for you when they don't get the opportunity. They don't even let them throw the ball 15 yards deep.
I agree. When it comes to play calling and everything like that, John, you do have to wonder. Okay, and Cam was involved in the recruitment of Brandon Harris. Okay, I mean these guys knew what they were getting there.
Sure.
And I think he's a quality kid. All those things that you're saying about that he's had difficulty picking up a playbook. We'll see what happens in the next year or so.
Year, right.
But that is a position that has not gotten better.
It has underperformed.
Yes,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Hunter is in Metairie. Hunter, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports.
Good evening, gentlemen. My question is about Coach Rob Ryan. I think his dad was probably the greatest defensive coach I've ever seen when he was with the Bears. Yes. How do you think this season unfolds for him? Do you see the struggles the defense has as more personnel, or his, or both? Now, I'll hang up.
Thank you, Hunter. Appreciate it.
Hunter, I would say this. I would say that I don't know of any problems on the coaching staff with regards to like the Greg Williams situation a couple of years ago. I think Rob's a good coach. Again, you can look at his track record too, and see that 2 years, seems to be the cutoff period. But I guess if you're looking for an excuse for Rob, he has had a number of injuries, and I do think
Dallas.
Yes, right. And I do think that they have some personnel issues on the roster right now. So,
I'll
you
go
can
with
make
that.
a
I
case,
agree with that. I think it's personnel issues.
Yeah.
I think he's a great coach.
Right, me too.
I don't know, great, but he's a good enough coach to be here with this football club. He did it last year in the fourth. So I think he's a good coach right now.
I wouldn't put it on him. I wouldn't put the onus on him.
I think they just need to upgrade their personnel.
Yeah, right. I'm with you. We only got a couple minutes left. I do want to touch on Tannerly and Tulane. John, what do you see when you see this?
I'd say a young kid who's got really no help around him. And what I mean by that is he don't have the guys up front and he's getting pressured. I think he's going to be a good quarterback for a Tulane. I just think right now CJ needs to go out there and get him some players and surround him with some quality players that he can go out and fight with. The defense has struggled this year, but offensively, Tannerly needs help.
Good young team. They've got I think they've got three promising running backs, and they've got some good skill people. Look, you put Tannerly up at LSU, we might be singing a different song.
You would be singing
He's
a different
probably
song.
the best he certainly is. He's the best pro prospect that you've got in the two schools.
Right.
No doubt about it.
Agreed. Guys, what about Curtis Johnson? Is he getting better as a coach game day?
I think the jury's still out on him. It's still early.
Great recruiter.
Yes, there's no doubt about it.
Great guy.
Yes.
I just don't know if he jumped into it real quick at that position. Maybe a coordinator first, and then. But time will tell.
You certainly could question some of his clock management and some decisions, and I think he's grown into the job. I think he's the kind of guy you still want to give him some time because I think he's got a good young team, but the next 2 years are going to be very important. Although at Tulane, you can hang. So
Yes.
I'd do this. I hope that Curtis succeeds there. I would love to see.
Going back to the Saints real quick.
Yeah.
This Saturday, New Orleans Crew, the female football team, having an open tryout at the Revolution facilities from 3 to 5.
Right.
And they got open tryout. The Saints should be over there checking out some of the talent.
Well, I'll tell you what. I knew if somebody was going to bring that up, it would be John.
New Orleans
There you go.
Crew.
There you go.
Female football.
Matter of fact, Keith LaCour is the coach.
Yes.
I know Keith from my old neighborhood. Hey, thanks so much, guys, for being with us. Certainly appreciate you guys being part of the panel tonight. And thanks so much for tuning in to Inside New Orleans Sports. Sports. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night here on WLE at 10 p.m. and also on Pelican Sports Television in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette at 9 p.m. You can always catch me on the radio, 9:90 a.m. WGSO, weekdays 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. You can download the podcast. You can listen live at ericasher.com. And if you missed any of the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports, you can check those out at ericasher.com as well. Ben, special thanks to our guests, Brian Allee Walsh and John Fourcade. Lively discussion tonight. And also to the WLE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Donovan Joseph, Kenny Juneau, and my director, William Hill. For John Fourcade, for Brian Allee Walsh, my name is Eric Asher. Thanks so much for watching Inside New Orleans Sports. We'll see you right back here next Thursday night, 6 p.m. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. At Natal's Air Conditioning, our motto is service honoring the golden rule. We're dedicated to providing the best air conditioning solution for your home or business in the New Orleans metro area. More information is available at 504-821-0005. Natal's Air Conditioning, a proud sponsor of the St. Jude Dream Home. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.